This meeting is being recorded.
Hi, good evening.
Good to see you. All right, that is our time. Timer is going off. See if we can get this up here. Welcome. Welcome to Investor Launch. I'm so glad that you all have chosen to be with me tonight and for the next 8 weeks. This will be an exciting time of learning and sharing and getting ourselves ready for our first deal or our next deal, whatever level you're at here tonight. All right. All right. Just so you guys know, I am not a formal person by any means. And so the way I'm approaching this class is literally just to have us pretend that we are at a round table, that kind of thing, right? You know, when people sit at a round table, that's when the world's problems are solved, right? And that's how I want us to see this tonight, that we're sitting at the round table. And because truly that's my intention with you, is to keep it real at the round table. So there's no gatekeeping here. There's no holding anything back. I will share as much as I possibly can. And if I don't know something, we will figure it out together. And because that's the point, is to get everyone started on their way to your first or your next investment property here. So just to give you a quick little rundown about me and my investing experience is I started investing back in 2002 and began rehabbing and renting properties around the Charlotte airport. Many of you know, and maybe some of you don't, I recently retired. I was a flight attendant for 31 years. So it made the most sense for me to have my rental properties close to the airport so I could just drive by and check on them every now and then, right? So I got started there and then kind of put that aside for a little while. And then once I moved to Winston-Salem back in 2015, I started rehabbing a couple more properties there. And I got those rented and eventually gave everything over to property managers, which we'll talk about at one point, because I learned after about 5 years of property managing of how important it is to have a property manager in your arsenal. They're very valuable people. I love those folks and grateful for what they do. Grateful for what they do. But then I also my last project that I did was I just finished a flip. I flipped a house in Winston-Salem before I moved here to Charlotte. And just full disclosure, my business partner and I brought home a 6-figure check from closing day on our flip. And that just truly got me excited about, you know what, there's so many different ways this can be taught. And I thought, you know, I was taking pictures along the way during the flip, and I said something to my business partner. I'm like, pose, let me take your picture. And she goes, why are you taking all these pictures? And I said, well, we're going to be teaching this. And you ever say something, y'all, and the words are out of your mouth before you realize what you said? That was that moment for me, because bless her heart, she looked at me and she went, what? She said, maybe you're teaching it. I'm not. And I was like, well, maybe I am, you know. So that's truly how this was born, because I want you, and I realize, and I want you guys to realize that this is not a get rich quick thing. This is not flipping a light switch and making 10 grand, 20 grand, 100 grand. It's not like that. This is a long game, but it's worth it. It is work. It is work. Now, you're welcome to take notes if you want to, but I just want you to know, full disclosure, this meeting is being recorded and I am going to email you my presentation that you're going to see here shortly. So you're going to have all these notes, and you're going to have the video as well of this particular meeting. So it's all going to be right there for you. If you guys will do me a favor, if you'll just start typing in the chat for me, I want you guys to kind of introduce yourselves, but I want you to do it in the chat, right? Because I want to be able to come back and see. If you'll just say your name, tell me your name, what you're doing, like what's your W-2 job today, right? If you have one, or what's your real estate investing experience, and what you want to learn from this class. Like, what is something that you don't want to walk away from here 8 weeks from now and be like, oh, well, I didn't learn this, right? So if there's something that you specifically want to learn in this class, I want to get to that definitely for you. And just to remind you of the 8 weeks and how this is built out, right? It's going to be 4 weeks of instruction mixed in with 4 weeks of question and answer sessions. So next week at this same time, we'll have in the room mortgage brokers, private money lenders, seasoned real estate investors as well that can speak to how they funded their deals, because truly tonight is all about where's the money, y'all, right? Where's the money to buy these, right? It's no point in finding the house if I don't know how I'm going to buy it, right? And that's truly, if some of you saw my Facebook posts on overcoming the top 3 reasons people tell me they're not investing in real estate, it's fear, time, and money. But money being the biggest thing. I don't have thousands of dollars in the bank. Well, what if I told you that the money's out there? You just need to find it. You just need to work to get it. You just need to know where it is. You just need to know where it is. So that's why we were talking about money the very first week. And that's why the second week we're going to have the mortgage brokers, the private money lenders, and other investors who can talk about different ways they finance their deals. So that's how it's going to go. The third week we'll talk about how do I find a house? Where are these houses, these distressed homeowners, that sort of thing. That's so the fourth week, I'll bring in investors again. I'll bring in wholesalers. I'll bring in folks that can talk, that can speak to how do you find these houses, okay? And how you can make some cash quickly if you decide to, right? Because that's the thing about real estate investing, y'all. There's so many different ways to make money in real estate. You can be an active or a passive real estate investor, and you get to decide your level of involvement, how much hand holding you want to do with a house. Do you even want to own a house at all, or do you just want to be a wholesaler and get paid in the middle? That's, it's just many, many, many different ways there. But let me keep going through. Let's see the little presentation. I'll send you different things every week. Just be sure to check your emails. For instance, did everyone get 2 emails from me? Let me know in the chat if you did not get both emails, because one of the emails is a welcome to investor launch, and the second email was information about this class tonight. But I want to make sure you got that first email, because there's a book, an audio link to a book called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill in there that I highly recommend that you listen to, that discusses the origin of fear and how to overcome it. So that's, if you can, and share that with your friends and family, and when you listen to the book, I encourage you to share it with any parents, moms, dads, raising kids, that sort of thing, because there's some incredible chapters in there where he talks about children and fear and that sort of thing. So very, very helpful there. But for networking and support on this particular screen, I encourage you all, has everybody heard of RIA meetings? REIA, Real Estate Investor Association meetings. If you have, and you've been to meetings like Danielle, I know that's where we met. I was at the Charlotte RIA meetings here. I encourage you, wherever you guys are located, if you're here around the Charlotte area, go to your Google and do a search for RIA meetings near me. There's several. There's, like here in North Carolina, there's a North Carolina RIA. There's also a Charlotte RIA. There's a Triad RIA. for the Winston-Salem, High Point, Greensboro area. There's a Raleigh RIA. There's one in Wilmington. And when I tell you they're literally all over the country, find these RIA meetings, y'all, and get your behinds in those seats and start networking in those rooms. There is power in those rooms, okay? I highly, highly encourage that. And the scripture I'll go through here, Ty, you might have heard it before. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom, and in all you're getting, get understanding. Proverbs 4:7, y'all. That's the main thing. As we're getting our wisdom here, I want to make sure that you understand what we're going through. So when you have questions along the way, if you want to raise your hand or you want to type those in the chat, either one is fine. But I just don't want to race through this and then have you wonder, like, what'd she say? I'm lost. I don't want you to be lost, y'all, because I truly have a heart for you and the fact that I want you to learn how to do this, and I want you to get your first or your next deal through this here. So the mission statement here is the mission is to empower new and aspiring real estate investors with knowledge, confidence, and tools to take action through step-by-step guidance, practical strategies, and a supportive learning community. This class equips students to overcome the common roadblocks of fear, financing, and time. Together, we're not just learning about real estate, we're building investors who are ready to launch. Yay! And the vision is similar: to create a community of confident, ethical, and financially empowered investors who transform neighborhoods and build lasting wealth for themselves and their families. We strive to be the launch pad where first-time investors discover their potential, overcome obstacles, and step boldly into a future of financial freedom through real estate. And I definitely wanted to just comment on that, because when you get into this industry in any shape or form, that you will learn quickly that there are many folks who are not ethical in this industry. So I hope that you are all prayerfully minded and you come at this with a servant's heart, how to help folks get what they need. So this is what we're talking about tonight. Where is the money? And before I go forward, does anybody have any questions so far? Does anybody have anything they want to say? All good? All good? Okay, we'll move right on. Where is the money? And we're going to go through these one by one. I've made you'll see a couple of different slides. Like this is the Cliff Notes or the Spark Notes version of what it looks like if you win the lottery today, or if you have hundreds of thousands of dollars in your bank account already that you just are trying to figure out what to do with. Each slide will show the pros and cons of using each of these different financing methods, okay? And so the first method is cash. So obviously a pro of that is no mortgage payments. You can close really fast when you don't have to deal with a mortgage company, right? You can make a stronger offer, and your offer is stronger only because you can close faster. Because if somebody's going through any kind of mortgaging situation, even with hard money loans or DSCR loans, those kind of things, which we'll talk about in a minute, those still take 3 to 4 weeks to get funded. And with cash, you can actually come in and tell somebody, well, I can close on your house in 7 days. And they can. So there's no lender fees because there's no mortgage, and immediate equity, right? So you own the house, you own the property, it's immediate equity. The cons of obviously are ties up large amounts of capital, less liquidity there, lower leverage, and fewer tax benefits. So by all means, let's don't forget the tax benefits of doing investing in real estate, and because you can write off those fees, those lender fees and mortgage interest rates, the mortgage interest there. On the second screen here of these, what you're going to see is a more elaborate version of the pros and cons for cash that you're welcome to read through when I send these to you, right? I'm choosing not to go through them tonight because I told you I want to respect your time. And I'm hoping to keep this meeting to an hour to an hour and a half at the absolute most, right? So they'll be on the second screen. You'll see when I email these to you that there's more information there on that. Now, private money, other people's money. Has everybody heard of that before? Or is this new to anybody? It's new to you, Destiny. All right, young lady. Private money is when you use other people's money, right? And people look at me sometimes crazy when I tell them that's a real thing, but it really is a real thing, right? And especially with as many people as you see a day, Destiny, right? If this is something that you just start mentioning from time to time, like when you start looking for your first deal, your first house, your first project, and you decide part of your financing, if you don't want to come out of your pocket or come out of your bank account with down payment money, private money is how you do that. And private money is basically me going to, could be someone in my family, your family, it could be one of your friends, a coworker, or it's anybody really. And what you're truly looking for is the folks who have cash in the bank. And they're literally, because if you have a high yield savings account only earn on average around 4% on their money. And so what you can offer somebody who has a lot of money in a savings account somewhere is to offer them 10, 12, 14, 15% on their money, right? So, and what that looks like is your primary mortgage on your property will be your first lien. Depending on if that's your private money money person may have enough money in the bank that they can be your primary mortgage, and they'll be first lien at that point. But if they don't, if your private money lender is what you're using for your down payment money, at that point they become the second lien holder on the property. And if they're wondering how they go about this, or they've never done it before, it's literally just a matter of them reaching out to a real estate attorney who is familiar with the investing world, which most of them are, and just letting them know that I need you to draw up a contract and for this house, and I'm going to loan Destiny my $50,000 for 6 months. And at the end of that, she's going to pay me 10% on my money, 10% interest on my $50,000. And that's literally, the terms are so flexible. That's the very first pro here. Flexible terms. It's fast money, personal relationships, repeat funding is possible here with these. And what I mean by flexible terms is that's between you and that private money lender. You guys decide how long you're going to keep the money, how long you're going to loan on it, if you're going to make payments along the way, or are you going to pay them the whole 10% at the end when you close on the property, right? So that's what it means by flexible terms. You guys get to decide that. Now, the cons of using private money is potential relationship strain, right? Makes sense. Miscommunication risks. It can be higher rates because some private money lenders want 15, 17%. But you know what? If that's how you get into the deal and have the opportunity to make whatever amount of money you want to make, you won't care what that interest rate is pretty much for 6 months, 9 months, or a year, right? And I highly recommend, if you've never done this before, that you talk to your private money lenders about holding their money for at least 9 months. Because 6 months comes up really fast when you're doing a rehab. So 9 months is a minimum that I recommend personally for doing that. And this is one of the things where you might not want to go to family unless you know that you have that relationship with your family, that when things come up, when it's time to have hard conversations, that you're able to get through that. And it's okay to talk about money, because not everybody can talk about money. And you know what? I'm just going to speak to this little squirrel that ran right in front of me right quick. When you begin talking to your family about real estate investing, or your friends about real estate investing, pay attention to their response. because not everybody is praying for you. Okay? If they're incredibly negative, if they're incredibly, I don't know why you're doing that, I don't know why you're wasting your time, well, then then learn from that this is not somebody I can talk about with, because you need to be around like-minded people, especially when you're brand new in this, because it's not easy. You just need to be around people who are willing to help you along the way. And you don't want those negative words in your head. Well, Uncle Joe said, Uncle Joe told me I don't need to be doing this. I'm gonna lose, I'm gonna lose my shoes here if I try to do this. I encourage you to pay attention to how people respond. If you say, hey, I'm in this real estate investing class. Nope. Just don't even go there. Don't even go there. But what I do encourage you to do, by the way, is I wanted to start this class now for these 8 weeks to be complete before Thanksgiving. And I did that on purpose, because by completing this class before the holidays, I want you to be able to go to your holiday dinners and your get-togethers and your holiday parties and all that with your friends and things. And when you have friends and loved ones that start talking about, well, they had to put Aunt Bessie in assisted living. Well, now there's a property there that you need to start asking questions about. What are they doing with the house, right? And you'll know your tactful way to do that, okay? You'll know that, so that you don't just come at them like, you have a house? You have a house for sale? Somebody's got a house? Somebody left a house? You don't want to be that person. It's kind of like a real estate agent having commission breath, right? You don't want to be that person, but I want you to be able to have those open ears, have those plugs removed from your ears for the holidays, so you can pay attention to conversations when you hear them, or even when you're friends, or if you're sitting at a coffee shop. I know one of my real estate agent friends here in Charlotte actually got a listing appointment because he was sitting at a coffee shop and heard a conversation at the table next to him, and he's like, you guys, I'm not like listening in, but here's my business card, and he got the listing, and it. So pay attention. I'm saying all that to say, pay attention, right? And here's a little longer list, talking about other people's money. Goes into a little more detail here. Does anybody have any questions? Is it making sense? A little bit? Okay. All right. I'll keep moving on. This method of financing your real estate deals is creative financing, selling subject to or seller financing or lease options. These I don't recommend for new investors, because these are a little bit more in detail, require more paperwork, unless you are working with an investor who is willing to hold your hand and guide you along the way. If you've got, now y'all know, I hope you know, if not, I'll just tell you right now, y'all, I will help you any way possible. You've all got my cell phone number. You call or text me anytime, and we will figure out what we need to figure out. But the reason I encourage you to go to your RIA meetings near you is because I want you to start networking in those rooms and find out who the full-time investors are and what methods they use. If there's somebody in there that's doing subject to, and I'll explain subject to right quick, just a little Cliff Notes, Spark Notes version of subject to. It's literally where if Tiara has bought a house in 2021 and got that house at a 3% interest rate, but suddenly she needs to sell it. But she just needs some cash out of it. She just needs to let it go. She just can't do, for whatever reason, she needs out of this payment. And she meets an investor who says, well, I'll buy it subject to the mortgage that you have. In other words, the property doesn't come out of Tiara's name. It stays in the seller's name. But Tiara is making the mortgage payments because she's bought it subject to. right? She's bought it subject to there. And Tiara and that investor will have an agreement. They will have conversations about how long it's going to stay in Tiara's name, what time frame that investor will get that property into his name or his company's name or business name or hers. It's not just all boys in real estate investing. I promise y'all, there's girls in there too. Hey. but that's in kind of a Cliff Notes version of sort of what subject to is. But there's a lot more detail to it than that. Just know that it's a lot more to it there. And seller financing is literally just where somebody sells you a house and you pay them. So they are the bank at that point. That's all seller financing is if Danielle and Paul have a house that they want to sell, but I can't qualify for any kind of mortgage whatsoever, or maybe I just don't want to. Maybe I just don't want to use hard money, or I don't want to use DSCR loans for whatever reason, right? If I'm trying to not come up with some sort of great big 10, 15, 20% down payment, and Danielle says, well, you know what, we'll do seller financing for you. Well, then that's just a conversation that the two of you have where you sit down and talk about interest rates and how long and all those sorts of things. So there's just more conversations that need to be had there. And lease options. Now, funny thing about lease options is my very first house that I bought in Charlotte was I actually sold it on a lease option. I bought it as a foreclosure. It was a HUD foreclosure that I bid on and won with the help of a real estate agent that knew exactly what he was doing, who had encouraged me to start going to RIA meetings and get in those rooms, right? So I had done that. So I bought the house. It was a HUD foreclosure. It was a lipstick foreclosure. Lipstick meaning it needed carpet and paint, and I think I bought a refrigerator for it. That was it, right? And I found a renter. I advertised it as a lease to own situation. Like you could put $5,000 down. This is what I did. I found a guy that was willing to put $5,000 down and signed an actual purchase agreement with me that he was purchasing the house with $5,000 down, and we added to the contract that all of his rent payments would go towards his purchase of the house. And I also at the same time had him sign a renter's contract as if he were renting the property. And we signed a whole nother piece of paper that said if he was late on his rent 3 times in a rolling 12-month period, then he forfeited his $5,000 down payment and became a renter at that point. Now, y'all, the only reason I knew to do all this is because I had been in these real estate investor association meetings, and I had the phone numbers of these people to say, now I need to do what? And I need to do what? Right? So I cannot push that enough. Get in your RIA meetings and meet these folks that are close to you in your area and know your area, where you are, what'll work and what won't work. But one of the things that the folks had really stressed that I do with a lease option was to go and have notarized, to have the gentleman go meet me at FedEx or UPS, wherever it was we went, right? And have notarized just that piece of paper that said, if you stop paying your rent in 3 months, in 3 months, whatever, 12 months, let me get this right. If you don't pay your rent on time, 3 months out of a rolling 12 months period, you forfeited your $5,000 payment. I only had to notarize that one piece of paper. Y'all, when I tell you he stopped paying his rent, we were only like 6, 7 months in, and he stopped paying his rent. I panicked, right? I thought, what have I done? Oh my gosh, where's, mind you, I had his down payment money in the bank. It wasn't like I couldn't pay the mortgage I had on the house. It wasn't that big of a deal, but I was just in an unknown space. So here I go, trotting myself to my little RIA meeting. And the goal of some of these RIA meetings, when you're searching for RIA meetings near you, y'all, if they have a breakfast meeting sometime during the week at some little diner somewhere, if it's a daytime meeting where like most people are at work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, find a way to take the time to go to that meeting, because the people you're going to meet at those weekly meetings like that, when everybody else, the world is at work, that's where your full-time real estate investors are. Okay, that's where the gold is. That's where your general contractors are. That's where your all these folks are. Honestly, your private money lenders are in the room, your mortgage brokers are in the room. It's literally just a powerful place to be. But y'all, he quit paying his rent. Here I go to the little breakfast meeting, right? And I walk in, and the way they do the RIA meetings here in Charlotte is they go around the room, you introduce yourself and what you're looking for, what you want, whatever, that sort of thing. And then do you have a want, need, or ask? And so as soon as I heard those words, anybody have a want, need, or ask, y'all, I jumped up out of my chair. And there's probably 30 people in the room, right? And I was like, you guys, I don't know what to do. He quit paying his rent. I sold it on a lease option, and he's done, and explained the whole thing. And you guys, when I tell you, the room literally stood up and applauded. They were excited for me because I just got his $5,000, right? And told me that basically, see what happens, see how he communicates with you, whatever. And if he continues to not pay his rent, or he's not communicating with you, which he wasn't at all, he was still living there, but couldn't get him anywhere. But they basically walked me through the eviction process at the Mecklenburg County Courthouse and told me to also file a lien against his name. Okay. So if he needed to use his credit for anything else, he would have to pay the lien off his name at the Mecklenburg County Courthouse before he could do anything with his credit. And now the little folks at the RIA meeting told me, they shared with me, Sherry, you may not ever see your 3 months of rent that you're missing. You may not ever see it, but you just go and pay your little $47 or whatever it was, right? Just go pay your little filing fee and go from there, right? And just see what happens. And what happens is you get a court date with a magistrate, and you guys, when I tell you, he showed up at the court date. Everybody in the meeting told me I would never see him again, told me that he would be gone forever and I might see my money and I might not. You guys, he showed up at the meeting at the courthouse and proceeded to give the magistrate, his sob story, all this sort of thing, whatever. And at the, when he had had enough of the story from him, and the magistrate looked at me and he said, what do you have to say? And I said, well, I would really like you to see the papers in this, right? So here I have the purchase contract agreement that he had signed to buy the house. Here I have the renter's agreement that he signed if he ended up renting a house. And the gold was that notarized piece of paper where he said, if I stop paying my rent 3 months, any 3 months in a rolling 12-month period, if I'm late or whatever, that I forfeit this money. When I tell y'all, he went right through that and he goes, well, this is a done deal. Slammed his little gavel, right? Kept the money, walked out. I didn't see or hear from him again for a little over 2 years. And this was, now mind you, all this is happening like in 2004, 2005, somewhere in there. And that's when we had beepers. For you guys that are old enough on here, remember that we had beepers, right? He starts paging me on my beeper. And now mind you, at the RIA meeting, they had shared with me, when he starts reaching out to you, it's because he needs to use his credit for some reason, right? He's wanting to pay you. And so what happened was he started leaving me messages, voicemail messages saying, Sherry, meet me at the courthouse and I'll pay you half. And so I go to my little RIA meeting. here I go back to little breakfast meeting. Here's what he said on my voicemail. I'm not talking to him, but here's what he said on my voicemail. And everybody, like the whole room said, don't say a word, don't respond, don't, hit his beeper with anything, nothing, just do nothing. And sure enough, you guys, about maybe 2 months after that, I received in the mail a full check for the back rent and the court costs for everything that it came. What was going on was if I had met him at the courthouse and agreed to pay half, then I would have signed something there saying that this is all clear and all done, right? And I realize in hindsight, I could have done that out of the goodness of my heart at the time, but I wasn't feeling that at all. And I wasn't in that space to say, yeah, I'll take half. I was in that space of give me all my money. I don't know what you're talking about, even though I already had his $5,000, right? None of this. I mean, today today things are a little different, and I would probably consider that at this point, but that's just where I were. And I wanted y'all to hear that story just to know how all that went down with my very first house. My very first house. And that house has many stories since then, but we'll get into those. But the pros of using creative financing, just to go through this, little or no money down, depending on which direction you go there. Fast closings, minimal credit checks, and you can grow your portfolio very quickly this way if you choose to go that route. Cons, legal complexity. Oh my goodness, you've got to have your ducks in a row with your contracts and all that good stuff on all of these. Due on sale clause risk. What that is talking about there is with subject to. If you buy a house subject to someone else's mortgage, if the mortgage company decides to pay attention to who's paying the mortgage and realize it's not the homeowner, they can call that entire loan due. Okay, so before you ever buy a house subject to, you will ask the homeowner to find out, to call their mortgage company and say, hey, or to search for it. You maybe not want to call them because you don't want to alert them to what you're doing, right? Just to go through and see if there's a due on sale clause in there, because not all of them have that, but some do. So you really want to be aware. Seller skepticism, obviously, because sometimes they just don't know, and you really got to be able to talk in such a way that you can tell them that, it's okay if you want to sell or finance it. We'll do the contracts this way with a real estate attorney. You've got to really be able to sell that, as well as a subject to, as you can imagine, right? You've got to be able to really know your stuff to be able to talk about it. And obviously you have to stay current on the seller's loan, because you're telling that seller, if you're buying that house subject to, you've just got to stay current on it, because you're not going to try to hit their credit. You're not going to try to hurt them anymore. And that goes to remember when I was telling y'all at the beginning, not all real estate investors are ethical, right? So when you're talking to your friends and family about it, that's sometimes what they'll come up with and ask you is like, oh no, real estate investors are slimy folks, right? Like we all know those folks that you think of, for some reason, used car salesmen come to mind. Like, hey, come on in here and buy this car. That's nothing wrong with it, right? But anyway, not everybody's ethical, but I know each and every one of you are, and you will be. Yeah, don't have to worry about that at all. Much longer list what you can go through when I email this to you with all the different pros and cons of creative financing. So now when you see those words, creative financing, you have an idea of what they're talking about. Which, by the way, while I'm right here, did everybody get the glossary of terms in the email? Yeah? Okay. Just when you get a chance, or just at some point, like if you ever hear words you're not used to, whatever, that's why I put that together, just so you can have an idea of, okay, what's she talking about? If she's talking about wholesalers and the buy box and what are all these different things? But by all means, ask me anytime or put it in the chat or whatnot if you want to know. But okay, hard money loans. Hard money loans are a great way for you all to get started in real estate investing if you've not done your first deal yet, because with a hard money loan, That covers the purchase price of the house as well as the rehab cost of the house. And it varies in how much money they'll ask for you down as a down payment. But don't forget that down payment can come from your private money lender. Okay? So don't let that mess with your mind when you see, well, hard money loans, they need money down too. Just don't think money does not have to come out of your pocket, right? There's ways to find and use other people's money, but hard money loans is actually how I did my flip. The house I flipped with my business partner in Winston-Salem. And hard money loans is a loan that you take out for a 12-month time frame or less, and you decide on how long you want that, right? 6, 9 months, whatever, however many months you think it's going to take to get the house completed. For your first one, or really for any of them, I don't know why anybody would do a hard money loan for less than 12 months, because by giving yourself that extra time, it gives you time for, because I just have to tell y'all, when you get in the properties, things go sideways. It's just part of it. It's just part of it. And so you just have to be able to be okay with that and just understand that it's not anything to be afraid of, because when you're in the right rooms and you're networking with folks that can answer questions for you, and you've got my phone number in your phone as well, just know that when things go sideways, it's okay. Because with every single property, there's going to be some unexpected something. It's just how it is. Just be grateful when you find it. Oh, there it is. All right, good, good. That's it. But a hard money loan is a loan that you can close in 21 days. That's usually the quickest you can close. They like to stretch it out to 28 days, especially if it's your first one. If it's not your first one, they can close quicker because they've worked with you before, and they'll sometimes the paperwork just doesn't take as long, right? Because they will give you a fast approval. Hard money loans, on here it says based on the property value, not necessarily income. That's a lot more for a DSCR loan, but some hard money lenders will do that as well. So in other words, a hard money loan doesn't necessarily need to see your W-2 or tax returns, but that depends on how experienced you are. If you've done several rehabs or several flips, they'll be like, all right, yeah, we don't need your income, we're good. But if it's your first one, they're going to need to see something from you, just to let you know. It does include your rehab funds. And what does that look like? What that looks like is when you go into a property and you know how to walk through and estimate how much your rehab costs are going to be, that's what they want to see. They want to see that spreadsheet you've created, or they want to see whatever that is, or your general contractor has created and told you what the rehab costs are going to be. So don't feel like y'all have to know what everything costs in the house, because you can have a general contractor run the rehab for you if you don't want to do that. So don't feel like you have to know all those numbers, but you will. But you will eventually, especially you'll learn in your area, that to replace a fuse box is $2,000, or, to get a 1,500 square foot house painted is going to cost you this. I mean, you'll just know. It'll come to you as you work through your properties. Hard money loans are short-term loans, ideal for flips or rehabs. And let's see, they're not, they'll ask you your exit strategy, but just know, and by exit strategy, I mean what you're going to do with the house. Are you going to flip it? Or are you going to rent it? Or what? Right? And the hard money lender will want to know that, but just know that that can change. You just need to communicate that with the hard money lender, and they'll be in contact with you along the way, because the way you pull your rehab funds from a hard money lender is you take draws on it as you use it, right? So you'll be in touch with them every time you want some of the rehab money. It's not just a big check that they send you all at one time. Okay. So as you're taking draws, they'll ask you, because during the house that we flipped in Weston, they would ask us from time to time, well, have you guys decided to use this as an Airbnb, or have you decided to do this as a long-term rental or mid-term rental? That sort of thing. They were asking us those things because they knew interest rates were going up, and they wanted us, if we were going to change our exit strategy, they wanted us to do it before a certain date so we would get the best interest rate possible, right? And so the cons of using a hard money loan, it is higher interest, anywhere from 9 to 15%, and that is based on your credit score. It's based on your experience, those sorts of things. So if you don't know your credit score, I highly encourage you to learn what it is. And with a hard money loan, you can do a hard money loan with a credit score as low as 620. All right. And we'll, next week when our question and answer session, well, I'll have a hard money lender here and he can go through all the ins and outs of that if you guys have questions for him on those. Shorter term, 6 to 18 months. 18 months, y'all, is a really long time to have a loan out for one house. So I pray that you never have a house that you are still trying to figure out, still trying to get it together 16 months in, right? I mean, you guys are going to be ready to go. You guys are going to have your contract list together. You're going to have your contractors together, right? If you receive those in your email, I sent you a list of contractors that you'll want to have in your pocket, right? I encourage you to get at least 2 or 3 of every single one of those. And it's not anything that you're just trying to fumble through along the way. I mean, it's a list that'll grow and change as you grow in the industry, as you do different things. You'll learn that when you pull up at the gas station and there's a truck beside you and the guy pumping gas is, covered in paint, like, hey man, is this your truck? Is this your company? Or is this somebody you work for? And who you really want to get is the guy that's driving somebody else's truck. Okay, because what you'll do at that point is ask them, well, hey, you want to earn some extra money on the weekend? What would you charge me to paint a 1,500 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house? I'm going to provide the paint for you. Just what are you going to charge me for the labor? Because if it's the guy that owns the truck, he's got a price, and his price is going to include all his overhead. He's got to pay for that truck. He's got to pay his employees and all that. But if you get the little guy that's the worker bee for one of the trucks, a lot of times you can get a lot better deals on your work to be done there. So you'll learn to just start having these conversations with people, electricians, just having conversations like, hey, do you happen to work in this area of Charlotte? And, how busy are you? Is this your company? Or, can you pull permits if I need you to? Or do I need to hire a general contractor for that? Or you'll just start having these conversations. So yes, I think I saw, did somebody have a question there?
Tier asked a question in the group chat.
Let's see if I can find. What'd you say, TR? Do you have this?
Hey, sorry. I was asking, do we have to pay general contractors to give rehab estimates? Okay.
You do not. Generally, I should word it that way. You generally do not. Some may, and you can simply let them know up front if you want that you are considering buying this house, but you want to have an idea of what the rehab costs are. And when he comes and gives you his estimate, if he just tells you it's going to be $45,000 to rehab this house, what you want, the conversation you want to have had with him up front is, when you give me your estimate, do you do estimates, detailed estimates? Because you want to know, what does he think it's going to cost to paint this house? What does he think it's going to cost to update the electrical? If he just gives you a blanket number of whatever, you don't know what that's for. You really want a detailed estimate from you, and some may charge you for that detailed estimate, and you can just ask them at that point, is this something that you charge for, this detailed estimate? But I'm going to tell you, this is part of the goal of getting in these RIA meetings. because you're going to meet general contractors in there and offer to buy them lunch, offer to take them for coffee or whatever, just to sit and pick their brains and find out their experience. How long, it's really important to find out how long they've worked in the area where your house is. Because I can tell you, just from here in Charlotte to Winston-Salem, the costs of getting work done on a house are very different. Only because it's Charlotte and Winston-Salem. Statesville, it's not as expensive to get things done in Statesville as it is in Charlotte. So it's, it just varies. Excuse me, it just varies. So get in your rooms in your RIA meetings so you can have a couple general contractors, some GCs in your contractor list there. How was that, Tiara? Did I answer your question? All right, we'll go with yes.
Yes, ma'am, you did.
Okay, good. All right, DSCR loans, debt service coverage ratio loans. These are great loans and once you get your property rehabbed, okay? So let's say you use a hard money loan and a private lender to buy the property, okay? And now your exit strategy is you want to rent the property. So this is when you talk to your mortgage broker about, okay, I want to do a DSCR loan because this DSCR loan is based on the property itself and has nothing to do with your income, right? So they're basically basing your loanability on what you're renting for that house and what this mortgage is going to be. So in other words, they're not asking you for a W-2. They're not asking you for any personal income information, that sort of thing. They may want to know what you have, there. They may still ask you, especially if it's your first one, because they want to know, for instance, if you have any kind of money in the bank or if you have access to any kind of money in somewhere in case your renter stops paying. They're going to want to know, how are you going to pay this mortgage if your renter skips out? So they may ask you those questions. So just be ready for that if they do. The cons is 25% down. It's higher interest. And they only want to talk to you when your house is ready to rent. Don't even bother messing with them if you're still in the middle of your rehab or it's not ready. So they don't want to talk to you when you're in the rehab stage. They don't care anything about that house. Why? Because truly they want to see what kind of light fixtures you put in it. Your fixtures matter. If you put tile in it or if you put hardwood floors in it or if you put a cheap LVP flooring down, the kind of fixtures and different things that you put in it decide on how much rent you can charge. The location of the house matters. All those little things matter on how much rent you can charge and what that mortgage is going to be. And ultimately what your cash flow is going to be, meaning how much money are you getting every month in your account. That's what it's all about. Some more information here on the DSCR loans. Let's see, does the down payment have to be paid upfront or can it be paid from the equity of the property? That's literally a question that you would ask your lender because sometimes they will do that. They will work with you. You just have to ask the questions. Yeah, some won't and some will. So everybody's different. And that's one of the reasons you want to have 2 or 3 mortgage brokers phone numbers in your contractor list. Because does everybody know the difference between a bank and a mortgage broker? The difference is your bank can work with that one bank's loan, what's the word? Loan programs or loan. Yes, thank you. That one bank can work with what they have and that's it. A mortgage broker is a person that works with 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 banks all across the country, right? If you work with one bank, with a bank, that person is available Monday, Friday, 8 to 5. That's it. A mortgage broker is somebody that more than likely you're going to get their personal phone number, maybe not personal phone number, but you'll get some sort of phone number from them that they will answer Saturday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, or they'll at least send you a text back and say, listen, I'm at the grandkids baseball game and I'll call you in the next hour, right? But the advantage that mortgage broker has over that banker is the fact that they have all these different banks that they work with, so they know several different lending options out there for you. So truly, when you're in the process of looking for how to finance your property and you're talking to your mortgage broker, they're going to ask you, what's your exit strategy? How much rehab does it need? You know, how quickly do you want to do this? Who's running your rehab? Are you doing it yourself? Or are you using a general contractor? All these things are important to them. And each part of your story is going to guide their minds to, okay, then you need this bank over here in Washington State. Nope, this bank over here in Colorado has got the loan program that you need for your house. You know, I can help you with that. So you definitely want your mortgage brokers are an asset to you when you're funding your properties. All right. Does anybody have any other questions? And did I answer your question? Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, good deal. You're welcome, Keziah. And so here's some discussion questions. If y'all want to talk about any of this, we can, like which financing method feels most approachable for your first deal and why? Does anybody want to tackle that?
I will. I think for me, private money seems like the most approachable. Yeah, for some reason that one stands out to me, because obviously I don't have the cash. And hard money, well, let me ask you about hard money. When you get a hard money loan, you have to start making payments on that right away, right?
Interest only.
Interest only, right. So if you don't necessarily have those funds yet to start making those interest payments until, like, if you're doing a flip, obviously once you flip the house and you sell it, you'll have the money to pay everybody back. But while it's rehabbing, if you're having to make interest payments, like what if you don't have cash for that?
Yeah. Well, that's where when you've heard people talk about using credit cards,
Yeah.
they'll make those payments there and then pay them back at the end when you sell the property. Or
Yeah.
you actually tell your private money lender, like you include in those funds a line item in your budget called holding costs. And the holding cost is what, say if your loan is, I don't know, let's just for easy numbers, say $1,000 a month is your interest payment. And you just think, okay, if I'm going to take this loan, this hard money loan for a year, and I need $12,000 of holding costs. So from your private money lender, then you're going to say, you're just going to include that as a line item in your budget. Yeah.
So you would use a private money lender for down payment as well as holding costs? If you're working with a hard money lender, okay. So then
if you don't have the cash, if you don't have the money somewhere, right, then you just add that whatever your holding costs is going to be to your down payment, right?
Okay. So then basically you have like a lot of interested parties then that you're working with, basically. Yeah.
Potentially. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Potentially. Yeah. Okay. And I'll show you too when we get to that part. Like when I do my budgeting for my houses, I include things in my budget that I may not do, like paving the driveway. But I'll put that as a line item in my budget for $10,000, $12,000, maybe $14,000. Because what that's doing is that's setting some money aside for that what if, for that, oh my gosh, I thought the plumbing update was going to be $2,000, now it's $12,000. And at that point, all you do is call your hard money lender and say, look, I know I had set aside $12,000 for paving the driveway, but we've run into this issue with the plumbing, and the estimates I'm getting is this amount. Can we move those funds from paving that driveway? We just gonna put some gravel down now. We're not gonna go through all that. Can we just move those funds over to plumbing? And they'll be like, sure, that's fine. So those are different ways that I cover that.
Sorry.
I'm sorry?
Is that what you meant when you said, like, always be prepared? Because when it comes to, like, getting a house ready, there's always something that comes up and it happens. So, like, having that line of, okay, this is how much I have just in case something happens. And if it doesn't, then we can just use it for something else. Is that what you mean?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. It's important to have money somewhere just in case. That, oh no, money. Well, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do now? Like, you might put it in there and say that you're going to replace the roof, you know, for $8,000. You're not going to pay $8,000 for a roof, probably, maybe. I don't know. Depends on the location and the size of the house. And you might just, did y'all know that you can pressure wash a roof and make it look brand new, right? So you may not have to replace the roof, but now, you know, something else comes up. These are just places where you kind of just set money aside in the budget just in case, right? Just in case. Yeah, okay. For sake of time, it's 8 o'clock. We'll move on to number 2. What's your biggest current roadblock? And what's the step you can take this week to start overcoming it? Anybody want to be vulnerable and share? What's your biggest roadblock right now?
I have like $0 in my bank account when it comes to buying a house, but I do want to look into just like what the rates would be with financing when it comes to looking at a house and like wanting to buy a house, what those prices would be. I just want to get like numbers in my head for what I'm looking forward to.
Just to have an idea of what you're up against. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that, Destiny, because truly that is the number one reason people tell me they don't want to get started in real estate investing is the money. And it's there. You've just got to get yourself in the rooms where you can meet private money lenders, where get yourself at those holiday parties with your friends or neighbors or family or whatnot who are going to these places where you can start having these conversations. And you can find the money's out there, y'all. You just got to go get it. It's out there. It's out there. Okay. Number 3, how can you start building your network now so you're ready when the right deal appears? If y'all don't say go to RIA meetings, I'm going to jump through this screen. Get in your real estate investor association meetings.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely say that. Yeah. I mean, my husband and I started going in March, and we've learned more from those meetings than we have with like courses that we had done over the years. You know, like last year, you know, Paul bought like a Grant Cardone course, and you know, I sat through about an hour of it and I was like, nope. And, you know, just, you know, something that, you know, we've been wanting to do it, but it's just like, where to start? How do we do this? It's just so overwhelming. And then, you know, we found the RIA and started going in March, and we've learned so much at the meetings. And then we've also met so many people. You know, like you said, Sherry, like we have had coffee with so many people. Like we've taken people out for coffee and just picked their brains, and it's been really amazing, like how helpful everybody is. Like you can tell everybody wants everybody to succeed. Like nobody is there, like nobody is just there for themselves. Like everybody's there to help each other. And so, yeah, it's been really, really helpful for us. And, you know, even though we haven't bought anything yet, I feel like we've just really been absorbing a lot.
Aren't you surprised? Because Danielle, I have to tell you, when I started going to these RIA meetings, what really shocked me was truly the abundance mindset everybody in that room has. There's not like you can meet several wholesalers in the same room, but you're all not working the same areas. You're all not doing the same things. You'll meet several investor friendly real estate agents in there, and there is no competition of, no, they're mine, they're mine. No, it's more of a, we get just as excited, to be able to help somebody in the room. So get in your RIA meetings, find out where they are. And if you're in the Charlotte area, hey, I'll meet you there. I'll meet you there.
I'll throw this in for some positive encouragement on this. I haven't been to the RIA meetings because I don't have my real estate license yet. I had them, then got into insurance, been doing insurance, getting back to real estate. I'm going to do both. But the one thing that I will say, I used to think rich people were so greedy. And now that I'm in insurance and I'm literally surrounded by people that make tons of money, the ones that make the most money when we're at our conferences, when we're going to our meetings, it's the ones that bounce ideas off each other, that have the abundance mindset, that want to share what they know, because it's the rule of reciprocity. If I give you something, you'll give me something. If I give you good advice, you'll give me good advice. If I cheer for you, you'll cheer for me. If I want to see you win, you want to see me win. So these RIA meetings, like I'm going to start going to them and, just learn from people what they do. Because the other thing, I'm sitting here looking at the which financing method. And I'm like, use other people's money and the hard money loans, because you can, if I want to buy $100,000 house, if I can't find 100 people that want to invest 1,000, you know what I mean? Like you're not going to have too many investors. You can never have too many investors. So, if I don't have the down payment for the hard money loan, instead of going and trying to use other people's money for, $100,000 to buy a house, I use it for 30 grand for a down payment, right? Or two people that want to turn 15 grand into something. And then, so you got to get creative with this stuff. But the one thing that I will say, she said this at the beginning, surround yourself with positive people, cut out the negativity. If it's coming from your mom and dad, you're supposed to honor your mother and father, but they're also not supposed to provoke you to anger. And if they're being really negative, that's going to provoke you to anger, because you're trying to go up and negativity will keep you down. That's why on a scale, positivity goes this way, negativity goes that way. Just don't let negativity in. Don't let anybody, just crush it all. And that'll help us with anything, because it helped me in insurance. It's going to help me in this. Once you find a duplicatable system that you can just rinse, wash, and repeat, wash, rinse, and repeat. Like, yeah, I'm excited. This is going to be fun. Sorry, I was late, by the way.
Well, I'm glad you're here, Cameron. Good to see you.
Yep, good to see
And
you
you
too.
brought up a valid point there. A lot of people think you have to have your real estate license to be a real estate investor. That's not true. You do not. As a matter of fact, it kind of can hold you back, because there's more rules you need to follow. Because when you take that class and you decide to be ethical, and you decide to be, when I sold the house in Winston-Salem after we flipped it, y'all, I lost my first buyer. When I say I lost my first buyer, I lost my first buyer, because as I'm going through checking out to make sure like all the contractors are paid, making sure there wasn't going to be any kind of lien filed down at the courthouse, it's going to be no hold up with title, right? All that's going to be fine. I got reminded that we had a mold situation appear during the rehab. Now, mind you, it is April, and this mold situation was back in September. And what I did and how I lost the buyer was I called the real estate agent representing the buyers and said, hey, by the way, just so you know, this happened during the rehab, but the HVAC company took responsibility and paid for the mold remediation company to come in, and there's no mold. It's all fine. But I did want to disclose that real estate agents have a duty to disclose what you know about, right? And so truly, just out of disclosing that, she went back and told the seller, said, hey, by the way, and they backed out of the whole deal. Because at that point, and I told him, I said, well, on out. What you talking about? And she said, well, now the buyers don't trust you anymore. If you just now decided to confess about the mold issue, what else is wrong with the house? And I was like, oh my gosh, tell me how to say this deal. I just told her, I said, tell me how to fix this. I don't know what, you know. And she said, well, have you had an air quality test done since the mold remediation has been completed? And I hadn't. So that's what I did. I called the little people that came in, did the air quality test. They were like, Sherry, I don't know why you had us out here, but thank you for paying us for our time. There's no mold here at all. Put the house right back on the market, and praise be to God, the very first buyer that saw it bought it. But being a real estate agent and having that, not saying that you won't want to disclose things, but in hindsight, I didn't necessarily have to disclose that because of the time that had elapsed, you know, from April to September of when it happened. I truly did not have to do that. But as a real estate agent to real estate agent, I just wanted them to know, because mold is a dirty little 4-letter word in the real estate agent world, right? Real estate investors get excited about mold because that means we can buy the house cheaper. Mold and cat urine, all these things, you just jump up and down, whoa, let it smell terrible. Because everybody, they'll run from it. The ones that don't know how to get rid of it will run from it. And y'all will know how to get rid of it because I do. So if you ever run into that, don't let the smell run you off, okay? There's ways to get rid of that. Anybody else have any questions? Anything to say before we go on to the next screen? Because I'm just going to tell you the next screen is your homework. This is your to-do list. Between now and the next class, find your local RIA meeting. Go if you can. Like I've said several times, if it's close around the Charlotte area, let me know you're going. I'll meet you there. Cameron, you guys in Winston-Salem area out there, hey, if you guys find one out there, I'll go with you. If you want to come to Charlotte, by all means, whatever you need. I've emailed you your contractor list that I created. Once again, 2 or 3 of these in each category if you can, right? Go find these folks at your RIA meetings, start talking to people here and there. Even use, like, I have a notes app in my phone sometimes, and I'll just it's a contractors, and so I'll just go and if I run, you know, I'm at a red light and I see a beat up truck over here, you know, that's looks like it might be a handyman services, you know, whatever, and there's a phone number on the side. I'm gonna call that number, y'all, right? And here's a little pro tip. If that truck is brand new, if that truck doesn't have a dent or a scratch on it, I'm not going to call them. Because that truck's got payments probably. Right? Like, I like those little beat up trucks. I like those trucks that look like you don't know if it's going to start or not, right? Those are my favorite little good old boy rednecks. They're my people. They're my people, and they'll tell you straight. And I am that investor that will walk around a house 11 times with a handyman. And if he starts talking about different things that need to be done to a house, then I will, you know, can I do that? Is there a video on YouTube? Will YouTube University teach me how to do that? But that's just me. I like getting involved like that. But start your contractor list and just work through it, and just know it's going to change, right? Your contractor list will grow and change with you as you move in the industry, because you're always going to need painters, because your top 2 painters might not be able to get to your house for 2 weeks. Oh, but you need it painted right now. Your electrician might not be able to get to your house in 3 weeks. Well, y'all, if you don't have power at the house, you can't do anything else, right? So you got to have power. So you got to have different people you can call, and you also want to always get several estimates, which we'll go into that when we go into talking about rehabbing the house. But that's another good reason to have several different contractors, because you can get a variety of different numbers, as you probably know, when you're looking for estimates for any kind of house. The glossary of terms, just scan through that every now and then just to be familiar with the lingo. If you walk into a RIA meeting and meet a wholesaler and they ask you what your buy box is, Your buy box is simply what you're looking for. That's all they're saying. Your buy box is 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 15 to 1,800 square feet. Your buy box is 4-bedroom, 2-bath, or 1-bedroom. It's just whatever kind of house, and just have something ready to say, right? Whether you're looking for that or not. But what that's going to do is that wholesaler is going to want your phone number, and you're going to want theirs. And now you're going to get on their text chain when they find a house, right? And so now you want to be one of the first to know, right? There's a great website which I use a lot called INVSTRLift.com out there. Log on to InvestorLift, create an account. It's free. Just create a user ID and a password. It's free. Start reading through the listings just so you begin to start seeing what houses look like from wholesalers. InvestorLift is mostly houses that are not on the MLS. These are houses. This is a website where wholesalers list their houses for investors. So just start getting used to seeing that, just so you know. Yes, sir, Mr. Davis.
Yeah, so first of all, always excited to see you operating in this vein. I really enjoyed all the details tonight. The other thing too is it's ironic that our last rehab, somewhat flip, but also long-term rental was in Winston-Salem. And when you talk about the buy box, it was outside of my comfort zone. The house that we had is a 5-bedroom, right? And we inherited from my mother-in-law. I knew it was too big for the type of rental rehabs I wanted to do. But I think having that mindset, sticking with your buy box and not going outside of that would save you a lot of money and time. So I appreciate you bringing that up again and just reminding me I have a standard, a window in which I'm willing to buy and do rehabs, and that I'm comfortable with. So, really good session tonight, though.
Thank you, Ty. I appreciate that. Yep, yep. And with your 5-bedroom house, if you've not heard of pad splits or co-living, I encourage you to do some research on that, because that'll be my next project. I'm just going to tell you that right now. That's going to be my next project. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. But that's a great way to go with those pad splits and co-living. We'll talk about that, or if you want to research those, by all means research those. And just so you know, I've created a private Facebook account for us called Investor Launch, right? And I encourage you to go there and reach out and join, and I'll let you in. And it's private because, y'all, I just want it to be us. And I'm going to invite in like all the guest speakers, all of the folks that are going to come on the Q&A sessions that we'll do. They'll all be in there as well if they desire to, right? Like, I'm going to invite them. I'm going to try to get them in, because I want that to be a safe place for us to ask questions. Okay. There are no silly questions. There are no, this sounds crazy, I can't ask it. Y'all just ask, because that's going to be the only way you learn. Okay. Because when we've been telling you about, folks that have an abundance mindset, that's real. That's real. That's real. There's plenty out there for all of us. And I'll be just as excited for your win as I will be for mine. But like I said, I'm going to email this whole little presentation you just watched here tonight. I'm going to email to you this video that's been recorded here tonight as well. And the last thing here is a Bible verse for us, Ecclesiastes 11:2. Now, when you start talking about real estate and start talking about numbers, like if there is a dollar amount that makes you anxious or nervous inside, if you have that, like, I don't know if you've ever, was it Jim Carrey that said he wrote $1 million check out to himself and like put it up on the wall, right? Do that if that's what you need. In his wallet, he carried it in his wallet. Yeah. You guys learn to let money be a tool, right? Because the Bible tells us, a lot of people like to say, well, the root of all evil is money. The root of all evil is money. Well, it's not the root of all evil. It's the love of money is the root of all evil, right? And I wanted to give us to end the night on this particular verse in Ecclesiastes, because if you ever feel like I can't do this, or this is not, you know, why do I need another job? Why do I need, but the Bible, it is literally biblical. Give a portion to 7 and also to 8. Invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. In other words, the Bible literally tells us, divide your investments among many places. Have your money coming in from 7 or 8 places. So if we only have one place our money is coming in, then we've got work to do. We've got work to do. So this is what I wish for you: positive income, right? Positive cash flow on your properties. Or if you're going to decide to be a wholesaler, that you make lots of money and be okay with that, right? If somebody wants to hand you 10 grand for, you know, for a property, or I can tell you just from the house that I wholesale, or excuse me, that I flipped in Winston, and I just, forgive me, but I'm going to talk about that a lot because that was the last project I did. But let me just tell you the numbers, how they worked out on that. The wholesaler, in her talks with the sellers wanted 100 grand for it, right? So she listed it for 135. And I would encourage you to get in every Facebook group you can find that has anything to do with wholesaling or real estate investing. Just start searching out those different groups, right? Because she listed it in one of the groups, and it was in Winston-Salem. And I was like, oh, I live in Winston. I'm gonna look at this address. Let me see. And I realized it was in a great area there, but the sellers only needed 100 grand. That's all they wanted, right? So she listed it at 135, and me and another girl started bidding against each other and got up to 152. And once we got to 152, the wholesaler reached out to both of us and said, why don't y'all work together? Right? Now, mind you, what she just did is she just cut off her paycheck at 52,000, because we could have kept bidding against each other, right? So you have to be okay with that, in the sense that if you are going to be a wholesaler and want to make that kind of money, it's just numbers. Your first tenth goes to, be it however you want to tithe, however you want to give to the poor, however you want to, that sort of thing. Just, I pray that you handle your money biblically and take care of it. But just, I wanted to end on this verse. We would all understand that it truly is 7 or 8 ways of earning money is what we are commanded to do from the Bible there. So does anybody else have anything to say before we go?
Can I throw one thing in there? The inner pastor in me is coming out. So y'all forgive me, but when you said this a minute ago about the love of money being the root of all evil, broke people cannot help broke, hurting people. Do not ever let somebody tell you that having money or getting money or growing money or anything like that is evil and blah, blah, blah. That's negativity that I was talking about earlier. Just let it go. But the one thing that I'll throw out there, if money was evil, God wouldn't have restored Job twice what he allowed Satan to take from him. David was a man after God's own heart, and David was stupid rich. After David, his son Solomon, who was also a king, was the richest person in the Bible and one of the richest people to ever walk on this planet. And they were God's people. So like, you know, and in the new church in Acts, they were telling people like, sell your possessions and give to the poor. If you don't have possessions, you can't give to the poor. If you don't take your money and even Matthew 25:14, man, I didn't have all this until I started talking about it, but Matthew 25:14, the parable of the talents, they're talking about money. The one that buried it in the earth, that didn't turn it into anything, was the one that got scolded for it and was told, hey, if you knew that I was a wicked and evil master, that I was a hard man, like why didn't you invest it? The guy with 2 turned it into 4. The guy with 5 turned it into 10. What were you doing? So like, I think one of the, I would say, top 10 biggest lies Satan has ever got the church to believe is that God's people cannot have money. And the reason he wants to do that is because money equals power in this world. And if God's people don't have money, God's people don't have power. And I'm not saying spiritual power and authority over all that stuff. We do have that. But you know what I mean? If we're fighting something and the kingdom of darkness has more money to throw at it than we do, they're probably going to win, unless God just steps in and says, you know, hey, I'm going to make this happen, which he can do. But it's also one of those things where he says, I gave you ability and you buried it in the earth. I gave them ability and they're just using it for the wrong kingdom. So I'm just saying, I just had to throw that out there, man. I'm not going to preach all night, but man, I had been taught poverty mindset my entire life until I got around some really good Christian people in the insurance world. And yeah, it's just, everything's different. So that's all I got. That's all I got. Love you, everybody.
Yeah, yeah. Praise God. Thank you, Cameron. Thank you, Cameron. Anyone else have anything to say before we go from our first night of investor launch? I do want to say thank y'all for being here. Thank you so much for investing in this course, investing in yourselves, investing in your future. Thank you, thank you, thank you, because you are have the great advantage here of being in the inaugural class of investor launch. So my intent is to teach you everything I possibly can and get you on your way to having your properties. So thank you for being here. Does anybody else have anything before we end for the night? All well, all hearts and minds are clear. All right. All right. All right. Enjoy your evening, you guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I'll see you next week at 7. Have your questions ready for the finance folks that'll be in the room if you have any. And if you have any questions, like I said, we'll go join the Facebook group Investor Launch and I'll let you in and we can just share and talk with each other there as well. Okay. Y'all have a great night.
Shem.
See ya.
So, oh,